Hello and welcome to Let's Chat with Phenomenal Shar. My name is Charlene, and today's podcast you'll find me solo because I needed to get this out there. So I've been having some challenges with my team. My co-host has been extremely busy. She's been working. And so I'm finding that there are lapses between recordings, which is not something I wanted to do. So I decided that, okay, instead of having to wait, and this is a reality, I will come on and do an episode today on my own. Now, there is an episode that is missing its last piece, and that is the episode where we talk about first love, self-love. Trying to gather the guest for that has been sort of challenging, to say the least. So I promise you that you will get the piece of that. So let's chat. Let's chat about what I want to focus on today. And you will see me glancing at my glancing down. That's because I have to be paying attention to my outline. If I don't, I get tangential and I'll be all over the place. And those who know me know that sometimes I can go off course. So I want to keep it together. So again, Let's Chat, for those who are joining me for the first time, Let's Chat is a podcast which examines lifestyles of men and women. We dive into topics that are sometimes not so comfortable to talk about. Part of my thrust for this podcast is to build a connection with the people who are viewers as well as my guest, and also to try and build a strong community. Of course, it's not about the followers, it's not about the likes, but I welcome those too. So today I wanted to talk about staying grounded in your spiritual evolution. And I'm going to talk specifically about my own journey, my spiritual journey. And the first thing I want to talk about is embracing loneliness and overcoming doubt. Now, I'll tell you something. I've had to deal with isolation, and some of it was not intentional isolation. I decided to move away from everyone. I am living outside of the main city where most of my friends reside. So I moved away, and I want to think that was the universe chose that path for me. I found myself evolving spiritually. So my spiritual growth needed to have me away from, not necessarily from my friends, but away from the hustle and bustle of the city. So I live in a small town, and it was important for me to be here because like I said, my spiritual growth depended on it. I knew it was time for me to shed all old identities, beliefs, and attachments. There are times when I feel truly isolated. There are times when I actually feel lonely. And in one of my podcasts, I talk about how I dread loneliness. Now, not so much anymore. I realized that it was necessary for this part of my growth and my journey. So I find myself being alone a lot. And it's working for me because as I evolve and I go through the different paths of my spiritual growth, I find that being alone is necessary. It has been necessary. So I've had to be navigating doubt. So we know that doubt steps in when we don't know what is ahead. Fear of the unknown. So what I do, instead of resisting, I welcome. I use doubt as a way of reflection, looking within looking at my life, trying to understand, why am I here? What is this all about? And then I ask myself, what is this doubt teaching me? What is it teaching me about myself? It allows me, for the most part, to build my inner strength. And I find that part of being alone, part of my isolation, has allowed me to become stronger. Of course, I still need people. I'll never not need people. I love my friends. I have a tribe of friends and I love going out to see them. But what it does, it allows me to affirm myself and validate myself. I no longer seek validation from others because I have been doing this alone. And I have to tell myself sometimes, I have to affirm myself by saying, I am where I need to be. I have to repeat that to myself very often because this is where I needed to be for this part of my growth. Another area I want to touch on is finding support and nurturing connections. Now, being in a small town, there are not a lot of people who identify with me racially, but I'm very friendly. I was able to garner a few friendships since I've been here. There is a couple that they're my dear friends. I love them, and we visit each other. Sometimes not as often as we should. And then I made friends with a neighbor not too far from me. But my community isn't here, and of course I miss them. Like I said, I'm very friendly. I'll meet people and I'll chat with people, but part of my isolation is that there aren't a lot of people that I have brought into my circle. Like I said, my friends are outside of this town. I'm in a town. They're in the bigger cities, and they visit occasionally, and I look forward to their visit. So I have tried to curate a circle, but it didn't really happen here. But my circle of friends, my tribe, my true friends, they're there. They're a staple in my life. I've met people and they come and go. I've been able to connect with co-workers, and there are two ladies that I'm very close to at work. They have helped me to get through some of the lonely times, and we are extremely close. We don't get to visit each other again because, everybody has their life. But it's okay. I've learned to make that okay. So I try to surround myself with people who encourage me, people who are going to add to my evolution in positive ways. So therefore, I don't overextend myself. I know where I belong, and I stay in my lane pretty much. So there are times when, I will seek guidance from my friends, my circle of friends. Not all of them live in Canada. Some of them are outside of Canada. I get involved when I can. Not too much happens in this town, except for the summer months when we have festivals and markets. And I do attend those. In fact, I enjoy them. I've also learned the power of vulnerability. I've learned to be open, because part of my journey invites me to be vulnerable, to be my authentic self. And that's who I am. I'm not afraid to share my struggles and my breakthroughs. I am very open. I'm very transparent. Maybe some may say I talk a little too much because my personal life, yes, I protect my personal life, but I'm also a very open person. And so I share. I'm not afraid to share. Some of my daily practices on this journey include meditation, prayer. I get in the mornings, what grounds me is reaching out to God. And so I do that through prayer and meditation. I allow myself to give gratitude each day. The first thing I do as I open my eyes is to be grateful. And I that gratitude keeps me going. It works. It helps me to stay grounded as well. Sometimes I get into my breathing exercises. I do, especially in the warmer months, I do find myself going out for walks and jogs, and I'm connected with nature that way. I go to the river, which is very close to me, and that's where sometimes I do my little workout, my exercise. I love connecting with nature. That helps me as well. Connecting with nature, sitting under a tree, watching the water go by, watching the birds, the squirrels, that allows me to keep my center. That's where I keep my center. Another thing is I journal. I published a journal a few years ago, and it's a gratitude journal. Now I completed that journal a few months ago, and I am ready to start a new one. So journaling is something I do on and off. Since my journal has been completed, I have not been actively journaling, but that is also one of the areas in my life that's to keep me grounded and to stay in gratitude, because gratitude is important. I follow my intuition now. I listen to my intuition. I listen to the nudges that the spirit sometimes, gives me. I pay attention to my inner voice. I listen to my inner voice. Sometimes I can be an overthinker, so I have to be very careful how to create that balance and how to identify when it is that's that overthinking voice versus the voice that brings me back to center. I try to go in the direction of spirit. I'm a very spirit-led person. I am always trying to tune into spirit so that I can know which direction I'm to go in. I stay very committed to this journey because it's important for my evolution. I try not to get too attached to outcomes. I am learning how to let go of outcomes. I am not fully there yet, because there are times when I will be, forecasting, especially if I'm about to take on something new, a new project or something. So spiritual growth is not about control. It's not. It's about surrendering to the flow of life. Surrendering. And surrendering is not about giving up. It's letting go and giving in to the process. I believe that what's meant for me will find me, and I've found that to be true throughout my life's journey. Whether it's a relationship, it's a job, it's a space where I have to live, I feel that once I surrender, what is meant for me comes to me. There's no doubt about that. And I've manifested some of my desires. Many of my desires I've been able to manifest. I'm still not fully there yet. And I've learned how to recognize the signs of alignment. I pay attention to synchronicities. I look at times when I need to be still, be present, and I know how to invite peace into my life. I am growing with a sense of purpose, and there's no way for me to go back. I can't go back to where I was. So it's now and moving ahead. I've also learned how to give myself grace. Growth isn't linear. Growth is not linear. I am not a linear person. I am very circular. I go with the flow. I am not hard on myself. I've learned how to allow situations to come at me. When something happens that I have to pay attention to, I give it my attention. I acknowledge when I'm hurting, when I'm not feeling good, when I'm having a bad day. I acknowledge all of that. And I know that progress comes sometimes slowly. everything is not going to happen at the same time. And I've learned how to lean into changes, lean into whatever it is that I am experiencing. I really do not spend my life focusing on what could have been. I am not there anymore. So spiritual growth isn't about control. And I'm going to just leave you with some of these thoughts that I've actually written down. Spiritual growth is not about control. Spiritual growth is inviting spirit and inviting the energies of the divine to move through. I understand that part of this whole process requires me to sometimes just be silent. I'm a talkative person. I talk a lot. I'm going to tell you that. I do talk a lot. I can admit that. So what I have learned to do is to be still. Shut up sometimes. As much as sometimes I want to talk and talk and talk, I've learned how to shut up. So here are some of things that I want to have as some key takeaways, and I wrote them down, so bear with me as I find them, because I don't want to leave this without letting you know some of what I feel is important as I close off this segment. Like I said, it's just me alone, and I'm not going to be staying long with you. So here goes my list of takeaways. Stay grounded. Don't allow life events to make you feel daunted. The next thing is to allow yourself time. Be patient with yourself. This message is for me as well. Another takeaway is trust the process. Trust the process. If you are on a spiritual path, there are times when you will veer off in directions that are not necessarily where you want to go. But come back and trust the process. And the last takeaway, which I have said before, give yourself some grace. It's okay. It's okay if some days you're feeling on top of the world, you feel enlightened, you feel like, yes, I am on this path and everything is going good. And then there are days when you feel ishy. You don't feel like, sometimes you don't even feel like you want to be bothered. It's okay. Allow yourself time and grace, and just, again, trust the process. My spiritual growth is an ongoing one. I've surrendered to the divine, and there are days when I'm not even liking how things are happening. I'm thinking, oh my God, but you're on this path of spiritual enlightenment. Why are you here right now? It's okay. Sometimes you're going to be here, there. Like I said, life isn't linear. Spirituality isn't linear. There are times when you will fall off. You have to get up back, find your center, get grounded, and continue. But I'm going to leave you with this. Trust the process. Trust the process. I will have an extended version of this podcast where I will invite my guests to come in and speak more about this topic. This is my version, and I needed to put some content out there. I didn't want it to, this lapse between episodes. So again, I'm going to continue this conversation with some guests, some friends, and I thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Let's Chat with Phenomenal Char.
Smooth jazzy, good time to vibe with Charlene. When real talk comes alive, she's got the groove.